In December of 2019, the first Tenet trailer was put onto screens, bringing immense excitement and suspense to Nolan fans and the common cinemagoer alike. Though with the coronavirus pandemic hitting, the film was set back multiple times, and the anticipation for it was allowed to develop. We all had to sit at home and watch old films, especially Nolan ones, to get our fix. Though eventually the aforementioned project was released on the 12th of August 2020, and was met with one of the most varying responses which has ever been seen by a film. There were those who loved it to the point of saying it was Nolan's best work, and those who felt it to be an emotionless masterpiece. But for me, Tenet was a lost Nolan.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek?
Nolan has claimed that the movie which shaped his childhood cinema the most was Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Now, to make the easiest connection to Nolan in 2001 would be through his 2014 hit, Interstellar. It was one of the most acclaimed films of the year, and for me is one of Nolan's best works. However, where the connection really lies is with Tenet. In Tenet we get a protagonist who is just as much in the dark as the audience, and at the end of the movie, it turns out that he's to be the head of the operation the entire time, and he now has to go back and take the steps in order to put the operation into place. Whilst in Kubrick's 2001, we get a protagonist who, like Tenet, must travel through space and time, in which he's just as prepared as the audience for what's to come. Though when I say Nolan is lost, so too is Kubrick, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. In both movies, the connection to the character and the story is not one of emotion for the viewer, but intrigue. We are simply wanting to explore the world which a protagonist is in, and we can use them as our eyes into that world. This allows Nolan to get lost in the world which is both a blessing and a curse. By doing so, Nolan creates a world which I'm still trying to figure out, with multiple trips and plot twists, which will take multiple viewings to get my head around to some extent. And this is exactly what Nolan would want, and Kubrick wanted to do with 2001. For them, the beauty of these movies is the interpretation, the emotions which are evoked from it, the ideas and theories which the viewer is given. It does what every Nolan movie does from Memento to Inception. It keeps the movie alive. This is exactly the same way in which Kubrick attacked cinema. He wanted the movie to carry on forever, with the giant fetus at the end of 2001 leaving complete ambiguity and no clarity to the closing image of The Shining, where we see Jack in a picture on the wall in 1921, potentially making everything which has happened in the movie put into doubt. However, the difference with Kubrick, being lost was the right thing. It was the whole point of 2001 A Space Odyssey, to make a piece which was completely made for being lost in, and having no cord to grab onto, making the movie more a piece of visual art than a movie which typically airs on primetime TV for the average person. And I understand why Nolan has ended up with the film he has, but what he has not done is chosen whether he is creating something which is made for the visuals and the epic, or a piece which is at its core a story. For me, he's gotten lost in purgatory between the two. Though this is not to say that movies which are cinematically amazing cannot have a well-developed, thoughtful plot or story. Rather, Nolan has done just that in his movies such as Inception. But what he's failed to do in Tenet is pair the visual and the story together in a way which he has done in so many of his other films. Rather, I feel like he should have taken the leap of faith and gone for all-out ambiguity with Tenet, leaving almost no answers, or found the perfect blend between the epic and the tale. Though nothing can be taken away from Nolan for the cinematography in this movie, as it is one of his best, with the incredible action stunts from the Batman series moving into the real world, and of course seeing anything in reverse will intrigue the naked eye, and this is the centre of the film. Though what has always been the key to a Nolan film is bringing huge action and excitement to a movie which hits the soul of the viewer, and leaves the movie alive after it's finished. Not just because it had a cool plot twist, but because the viewer really cares for the characters, their future, and the ending they have. This is where I feel the link to Space Odyssey, and where Nolan has lost himself in the spectacle. Of course, the spectacle is brilliant, but lost. Leaving the cinema after the conclusion of the dramatic action sequence, which saw a fight take place in reverse and forwards as the two work in time to get the Tenet algorithm, I felt no urge to go back and rewatch it, to know what it all meant, to figure out the character's future. Rather, I left the cinema thinking that Nolan, my favourite director, like he always does, created a world full of intrigue for the spectacle and the beauty of it. But unlike his other movies such as Inception or Interstellar, which had this in abundance alongside the care for the characters themselves. Rather, for Tenet I left thinking that Robert Pattinson's character was cool. I wouldn't mind getting a suit like him, instead of feeling that his death had left me with somewhat of a sad rest of the night. Unlike Inception, when the spinner not falling over at the end of the last shot left me in shock to this very day, wondering whether it was a dream or reality. Instead, I felt emotionless to the character, and like Nolan, had to just get lost in the spectacle that was the movie. This is the same reason that I did not love 2001, the visuals. It has to connect with the viewer and be with them after they stop watching it. Not just because it had a cool stunt in, that has no more direction than a cool YouTube clip. Rather, it must make the viewer hurt and feel with the characters, like Nolan has done in so many of his other movies, but has failed to do in Tenet. Crazy feeling.